Good evening, good afternoon, Assalamu alaikum. It's been a while since I have broadcast something live. I think since Ramadan I have not been doing this. But today I wanted to comment on the Israeli Supreme Court uh, decisions or lack of a decision on the Sheikh Jarrah and the attempted uh, displacement, dispossession of the Palestinians of Sheikh Jarrah. What the decision, the no decision is that the Israeli Supreme Court deferred the actual decision on the matter and wanted to force the Palestinians to reach a settlement with the settlers. And what the settlements boils down to is is that the Palestinians agreeing to lease their own land and their own homes from the settlers who claim that they own the land and they own the property. Now, mind you, up to this point, the settlers have not actually provided any evidence, any deeds of actual ownership of the land or the property. And this has been an ongoing challenge for the Palestinians, is that the settlers will come and make a claim on a property in Jerusalem or in the West Bank. And this claim is immediately given the force of law, despite the Palestinians actually being in there, not only in the immediate, but throughout history, being in their own land and property and homes. One has to look at the reality that in 1917, when the Balfour Declaration was issued, Palestine had only about 3 to 4% Jewish population, less than 70,000. And through the process of the British allowing settlers to come in and to gain land and to transform land into settlements, that you reach by 1948 into population of almost 37% of Palestine. And then from that time on, continue to expand the Israeli footprint on Palestinian land and property. But specifically, when you speak about Sheikh Jarrah and Wadi al-Joz, Bustan, and other areas in the West Bank, where the Israeli government is actually trying to prevent the Palestinians from, one, getting their own state in the West Bank, as far as the two-state solution, which is dead. But even though it's continued taking over land, taking over property, and making the Palestinian life a daily living hell and a struggle. And in this, it's important, what I call what is taking place is colonial legalism, which is the process by which the Israeli settler colonial state uses a colonial legalism structure in order to give legitimacy and to give some notions of legality to that which is at the core is an illegal process. So the law, Israeli law, becomes an instrument of cementing colonization and cementing the settler colonialism over the Palestinian lands. In this sense, the Israeli law, beginning in the early 70s, have transformed the legal definition, and I put legal here constantly between two parentheses, transforming the legal definition of the occupied territories as disputed territories. So from occupied territories, per United Nations resolutions 242, 338, is that the Israeli legal apparatus, which is, again, is a settler colonial state, have transformed the legal definition of the land, and thus opening them to a process of colonization and allowing settlers to move in and claim these lands. And there is a whole process of trickery, legal maneuvering, uh, subverting international law that resulted in the movement of settlers and building of settlements in the occupied territories. Today, when we speak about the West Bank, and again, I'm leaving the 48 aside, but if we speak about the West Bank, including what is called expanded Jerusalem, we're speaking about close to 650,000 settlers and settlements that exist in the occupied territories. That footprint of the settlers and settlements also have taken land to build a set of bypass roads. These are Zionist only road, Zionist settlers only road, and Israeli citizens road that connects the settlements with Israel proper in 1948. That land was taken from the Palestinians. In addition, you have a whole host of areas within the West Bank that have been taken over for security areas, natural preserves. The whole Jordan Valley has been almost emptied, or completely the Palestinian population has been limited to its access. So all that area has been transformed into really an area that's under the direct Israeli control, with the plans, whether you're talking about the peace plans from Clinton all the way to the Trump plan, is to try to find a way for Israel to have some level of permanency in in the Jordan Valley. Coming closer to specifically to the Sheikh Jarrah area and to the area of Jerusalem. Specifically, it is a takeover of neighborhood and to try to create an isolation and to remove the Palestinians from the direct contact or access to the old city, with this being actually part of a whole host of both Zionist organizations, settler organizations inside Palestine, supported by massive funding, in particular in the United States, to allow for takeover of land, building settlements, the so-called outpost, in a systematic way, with the notion of trying to isolate the old city, in particular the old city of the Muslim Christian part of the old city, to the eventuality of taking a footprint or foothold in the Al-Aqsa compound in order to initiate in their mind the building of the third temple over that area. So again, you have a millenarian type of mindset supported by a government that is intent on pushing forth its settler colonial project. So the decision in here is really, it's an insult to, one is an insult to call it a legal decision. It's an insult to call the Israeli Supreme Court anything but a settler colonial court that is dressing up settler colonialism and allowing it to function in the fully apartheid regime that dispossesses and disempowers the Palestinians on a daily basis. So what I want for people to continue to press ahead, to continue to understand what settler colonialism is, that this is what we're dealing in Palestine, settler colonialism, and with it the administrative and apartheid structure inside this project. So it's a settler colonial project dressed up with an apartheid regime, and we should be systematic and engaging in the continued work to expose it as much as possible wherever we are, and continue to actually call on people to adhere to the call for the PDS, the boycott, divestment, and sanction, and to push for it. Many of us are still following the development with Ben and Jerry's ice cream and Zionist settler colonialism melting as a result of this. It's a tangential win, but again, it's a symbolic win for the PDS. But we need to push further with all the major campaigns. At least there's a number of major campaigns that are undertaken. So we encourage people to continue to build for PDS and continue to raise your voices continuously on Palestine. And Palestine is a critical issue at this time. So I wanted to be here just to reflect upon the decision and say that the struggle for Sheikh Jarrah, for Jerusalem, for Palestine, for Wadi al-Juz, for Gaza continues, and we should not rest nor fall silence. Violence never leaves, and violence is constantly being imposed on the Palestinians because settler colonialism is the highest forms of violence, systematic structure, and it's ongoing. So thank you for those who are listening, and every once in a while I'll come back and update some of the developments that are taking place. Assalamu alaikum.